Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to show you the ACI integration with containers. Here is first an overview. ACI enables containers networking with policy. With the integration, there is no need for doing any networking configuration on ACI. There is a automatic policy mapping to the changes made in the container environment, which are pushed into mapping policies directly in ACI. Therefore, using containers as an application is completely transparent for the network engineer when ACI is being used. ACI also brings structure to container networking. With the project Contiv, we have the capability of structuring the networking piece of the container elements into policies. Here is an overview of how the Docker container environment falls into an ACI infrastructure. As you can see, it's just another type of application to be able to run containers, as they will have their own policies which will be mapped in an application network profile. And you can have therefore coexistence between multi-hypervisor, bare metal servers, orchestrators, L4 to L7 services, as well as containers. So I have a topology here for this demo, which consists into two physical servers running in a Docker cluster with a Docker Swarm, and we will be running an application which consists into two containers, a web and a database container. Here is my first server, and you see we run on this device, Ubuntu One, we're running on 172.31.185.23. We're running Docker, and this is the second server, that 24. So if I go here in ifconfig, you can see here my IP, init 0. This is 23, and this is 24. Typing the Docker commands, as this is a cluster, results in the same results whether we run on one or the other server. So for the purpose of this demo, I'll continue to type them on the first one. Docker PS, you see we're not running yet any container at this time. So what do I have? I have an ACI configuration file, which for the purpose of the demonstration here is in clear text in terms of my APIC password, my APIC username, and as well as the IP address of the APIC and where the APIC is connected. So I'm going to start the process here, which will enable the communication with APIC. And this is just to be started once in the beginning. And you will see now the container being started. Okay, so APIC poster is here. Now we go in tenants, and we haven't yet created any container yet. So we don't see our tenant, which will be used for the purpose of our container networking. We're going to go in Compose, and we're going to create an application with Docker Compose. And this application contains two different containers, a web container and a database container using Redis type of database, and web. Here in web we specify the ports, and Redis will pick its own ports to run. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start our here environment where we'll create our application profile. And we'll call this test, for example. We'll run this, we'll bring it up, and we'll run it as a daemon. You see here the creation of this new tenant, Contiv default, and we have created a web container and a Redis container which are here. You see our test web 1 and test Redis 1. And instantaneously here, application network profile, we have this test application network profile with 2 EPGs. Each EPG is mapped to its own container, the Redis container and the web container. We now have also contracts, and let's go and take a look. A contract has been created between our database and our web server, between both containers, and they're here. Okay. The contract is formed. Now let's take a look at what ports these two containers are using. So we'll say docker inspect, and we'll look at, for example, our database, and we'll see that for example, we're using 6379 for Redis. 5001 is the one used for our web. Let's go ahead and connect into that container. And we're going to test Redis 1 on the bash shell. And we're going to take a look now and basically scan for the open ports for test Redis. And we'll say, let's go between 6370 and 6380. And you can see 6379 is the open one. And so this is enforced in hardware. The switch opens only that port for this specific container. And of course, by going to ACI, and you see 6379 and 5001. And these are the ports, obviously, that are only allowed into the ACI fabric. Now, by the same manner, if we go and create another environment that we can call, for example, prod, we're going to create 2 more EPGs in a new application network profile called prod. You see it's directly created, prod. It's already here. And by going into our contract in prod, we have as well the contracts being defined, and we do have our EPGs that are created. You see I have my web and my Redis, and the contracts enforced. Now going back here, docker info, you see I have running 5 containers where 3 of them are on the first host and 2 of them on the second physical host, and therefore communication will go through our fabric in terms of communication between them. Thank you for watching.